Alright, I just want to shoot a quick video on how to bleed these GM Saturn power steering systems. I ran into a lot of trouble. There's not great video and information on how to do this. So this is a Saturn Vue 2008. There's the power steering reservoir right there. And just kind of show you, this is a coolant pressure tester, and it's also a vacuum fill device for coolant systems. So basically this just goes to a universal cone fitting, and then I have a red tube to pressurized brake bleeder fitting, and it's just a rubber gasket top. I know you may not have these tools, but this is just my setup here. And then on this side of it, this is just a hose and to a PVC pipe to a vacuum pump. You can eliminate all this stuff. The real important thing is just a cap of some kind that can pull a vacuum, so you can have like a little hand pump, mighty vac, mini vac thing. This is just my setup to go over it. And then basically all this PVC pipe is just a fluid air separator, so that I don't send any hydraulic fluid or coolant into my vacuum pump, because it'll break the vanes in that. So basically this is just a fitting in the top of this PVC, and inside here is a long tube that goes down to the bottom, and then this fitting is just right at the top, so it pulls air only, and this whole tube can fill up with fluid before fluid will go into the vacuum pump. With all that said, the GM instruction manual for this is to vacuum bleed these power steering systems. So basically you just take the cap off and you put this cap on over the top of it and run the vacuum pump, and you pull 20 inches of mercury. They just say don't go over 20 in the instruction manual. The other thing that you want to do is you want to elevate the vehicle and keep the wheels off the ground, so you're not putting any torque or load on the actual power steering system. And you'll want the power steering system full of fluid, and you want 20 inches of mercury of suction on the top of the reservoir. And then you're going to want to turn the wheel left and right for 20 cycles. But what they don't tell you is as you turn the wheel and you come to lock, you're going to be pushing fluid up this hose. And this really should be a clear hose. This red hose isn't going to do you any favors. That's all I had. And what I did was I wrapped this hose up over the top of the hood, and the fluid would go all the way about 2 or 3 feet into the hose, and that happens at lock, and you want to hold it at the lock with the engine off. You're just turning the rack left and right with no engine running, and you're letting the fluid fill the hose, and then it will as you hold it at lock, it'll slowly draw back down and go down back into the reservoir. With a clear hose, you would be able to see micro bubbles or large bubbles come through the fluid. And the GM bleeding instructions say once you get to a point where there's no more micro bubbling or bubbles coming through the fluid, then you want to do 20 turns, 20 complete cycles. So a cycle is all the way to the right, all the way to the left, and all the way back to the center again, if you're starting from center. And they want 20 cycles of that before you actually turn the engine on. And then what you want to do after all the micro bubbling and the big bubbles are out, you want to make sure that the fluid is at the correct level, and you want to take this system off, and then you want to put the cap on and close it. You never want to run these cars with the cap off. You'll create micro bubbles and you'll put air into the system. I know people say on the internet, run it for 45 minutes with the cap off. Don't do that. You're just putting micro bubbles into your power steering system. With the car still elevated, the cap on, they want you to run the car, start the car, and then they want you to do 5 cycles of 180 degrees. They don't want you to go to the lock, the full lock of the wheel. So if you're starting with it in center, you just go 180 degrees to the right, come back to the center, 180 degrees to the left, and then back to the center. And then that's, they say do that 5 times and shut the car off, come check your fluid, make sure it's at the correct level, and then put the cap back on, and then that's your system is completely bled. I had good success with that in getting all the air out of my system on this vehicle. I didn't realize, none of the nomenclature or paperwork or anything talked about the fluid coming up inside the tubing and letting it draw back down. I was just quickly going, trying to run through the 20 turns left and right. Really, you need to take your time and go slow with the 20 turns. Hold it at lock. You'll see the fluid rise up and you'll feel it in the wheel. Then the fluid will rise up, let it rise back down, and then start your turning in the other direction. And then periodically just keeping an eye on this gauge and making sure you're at the 20 inches of mercury. As you get closer to lock, you'll start losing pressure, and then as the fluid drains back down, the pressure will come back more towards 20. Over time, and as bubbles come out, you'll start losing it, and then I recharge it. I turn the pump back on and run it until it's at 20 inches of mercury again. You can just hand pump it if you got a hand pump. You can use a rubber stopper of some sort, anything to really just give you a seal on top of that cap. That's all you're looking for. It's not hard. It's just very tedious, and you do the whole thing with the car in the air. Other than that, I hope that helps give a little bit of insight on how to do this, how to vacuum bleed power steering systems in general. And any questions, put them down in the comments and I'll try and answer them.